Tendulkar, and of course this is a show where we get you all that you need to know with respect to today's action, and of course we prepare you for the next trading day as well. And what we had today, Rima, was such a quiet session. By the end of it, the Nifty couldn't make up its mind. Even a couple of points cleared down or up. Nifty, sensex, even the mid-cap index today. What a quiet session.
Indeed, I think the only space where you saw some moves were banks. So clear signs of profit booking in the Nifty banking index after 2 days of up move. So the Nifty banking index was down close to about 200 odd points, with PSU banks underperforming. Realty also took a bit of a backseat. So some of these rate sensitives, which did well on Friday and Monday following RBI's injection and liquidity boost, saw a bit of profit booking. And on the way up, it was IT and defense and pharma. But IT and defense managed to close up with a gain of more than 1%.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to see what happens with what builds on this, financial side, this underperformance that we had from the bank Nifty, whether it was a one-day phenomena or whether there's more to it. Well, let's quickly run you through what we've lined up for you on the show today. Lots coming up. Of course, the movers and shakers of the day with the Hormas in just a bit. And then, of course, we focus on the top story of the day. Inflows into equity funds have been faltering for the last couple of months, and May was no exception. We'll get you a detailed breakup of the data in just a bit. On the stocks front, we will be focusing on Grasim, Zee Entertainment, and a couple of other names like Prestige Estates, Memphis, and Coromandel International as well. And then, of course, we dive into all the key events to watch. But let's kick it off first with Hormas. Hormas, did you find any movers or shakers, considering the market seemed to be sleeping?
It was difficult to keep your eyes open considering the market was in snooze mode. But yes, there were some movers and shakers, at least on the real estate front, as one of the top sectoral losers today. Second day of losses for the index. That Soba was the last few minutes of a very sharp recovery from the lows, ending at the absolute flat line. But that too was down 2.5-3% at the lows of the day. Most of the other names also ending 1.5% to 3% lower. On the flip side, there was some buying in IT, and it was led particularly by the mid-cap IT names. You look at OFSS, Emphasis, Coforge, of course, with the positive brokerage note coming in from JP Morgan. There was a 2% to 4% gains seen in these IT names. Of course, large cap IT too was not far behind. In the newsmakers today, Jindal saw pretty much the stock of the morning, ending off the highs of the day, but still 7% higher. Premier Energies, it will be interesting to see who are the buyers in this transaction. Protean, eGov off the highs of the day, and DMart, after the block deal that happened earlier in the day, it was down almost 6%, but ending 2.5% lower there as well. And look at stocks that hit a 52-week high today, and yes, there were, then even the market being in snooze mode. Reliance Power was one of them, 10% higher on that stock. But take a look at the other names: Affle India, Ramco, couple of cement names here: Ramco, Dalmia Bharat, even Eris Life seeing a 52-week high today. And lastly, some profit booking seen in some of the high-flying names from yesterday's trading session. Westlife Foodworld yesterday was up 11%, ending 4% lower today. Nippon Life India seeing some profit booking. Indian Bank too, ending at the lowest point of the day. Of course, including a dividend adjustment here. But most of the others, fair bit of green and some bit of red in today's session as well.
Thank you very much for that, Hormas. Let's invite our guest. Jay Bala of cashthechaos.com is still with us. Mayuresh Joshi of Marketsmith India is with us. Jay, we were talking about the medium-term picture in the markets. You're bullish. You see the Nifty headed higher, provided 24,300 holds. But just for the near term, for the remainder part of this week, is there any trade on the Nifty banking index and its underperformance, and any individual stock ideas, interesting picks for tomorrow?
Yeah, the bullish picks are on the cement space for me, Rima. I've been pointing this out that the cements are likely to follow on what the real estate sectors have done. So it's not a surprise that Grasim was up 4% today. So bullish on Ultratech with the stop is about 10,900. Anticipate fresh 52-week highs. Bullish on Grasim with the stop loss at 2,500. Again, fresh 52-week highs. Nifty, again, experiment and a call option possibly going forward for the week. The 24,300 mark is not just for the short term. If it falls below that in the short term, that will still impact the medium-term picture of 29,000 Nifty from a 6 to 12 months perspective. That is confirmed in my opinion. So, the very short term, you need to keep a stop loss at 24,300 for a fast rally for the markets to somewhere about closer to 26,000 on the Nifty.
Okay, Jay, you heard, na? 29,000 on the Nifty, provided 24,300 holds. But let's talk about some data that we got. The equity inflows for the month of May. And Surbhi, you've been saying it's a sobering reality check.
It's a sobering reality check for equity funds for sure, and some interesting trends and a shift to the hybrid category, where you have a couple of asset classes coming together. That's where the preference seems to be shifting. On equity, this is a story that we've been hearing repeatedly so far this year. This is the 5th straight month that flows have been declining month on month into equity funds, and now the number is below 19,000 crores. Imagine in December of last year, we were getting in over 41,000 crores in equity funds. So it's come down. It's half from that level for sure. Okay, let's talk about where the impact is being felt the most. In May, that impact is being felt the most in the large cap category, because flows within the large cap category have fallen about 53 odd percent from 2,600 to just about 1,250. But it's not like small and mid caps have been spared either, because month on month, even there is a drop, 15 to 20% drop in flows. Though I must say that the small cap category is still exciting investors the most, because small cap funds have still pulled in over 3,000 crores. So not bad, and it's more than double of what the large cap segment of the market has pulled in. So still excitement continues on the small cap side. The other, important thing and the silver lining is that SIPs are very steady. Systematic investment plans, they're still getting the money. And those numbers, look at that, 26,688 crores, rock steady. Look at those bars, those columns. We haven't seen a dithering despite the market's volatility when it comes to systematic investment plans. Hybrid funds, I should just see if we can get that bar up as well. Hybrid funds have pulled in over 20,000 crores in May. And when I talk about hybrid funds, that includes categories like balanced advantage, it includes things like arbitrage. That's where the money seems to be going, because typically this is a category of funds that seems relatively safer in times of equity market volatility. So short point, yes, on the equity side, investors are getting more cautious, but SIPs remain fairly steady. So that's as far as the MF flow picture is concerned. Let me ask Mayuresh Joshi what he made of the numbers. Mayuresh, we keep talking about the capital market side of the market, and a lot of those stocks have done very well. What's your take on asset management stocks, HDFC, AMC, UTI, etc.?
Afternoon, Surbhi. I think we remain constructive on these stocks within the capital market play. Our take is that kind of flows that you're probably seeing, there will be some element of cyclicality as markets go through a volatile phase. But if you look ahead and take a curve out over the next 4 to 5 years, there is sheer underpenetration as far as equity investments are concerned. It's just 5.2 or 5.3% in terms of our savings generally. Compared to even emerging market averages or global averages. So there is still some way to go out there. And I think the best way to play this would be through the asset management companies. Obviously, I think specialized players, Surbhi, like wealth managers, should also remain in focus, because the expectation in terms of ultra HNI and HNI households are actually expected to double over the next 4 years. You will need expert advice when it comes not just to equity funds, but diversification when it comes to managing their overall assets as a pool. And therefore, I think asset managers like HDFC, AMC as an example is something that we continue holding in our global portfolios. But even wealth managers should probably do well over a longer period.
Okay, that's a bit of a structural story, though today some of these names came in for profit booking too. Grasim was a big mover today after positive commentary from Morgan Stanley. Nigel joins in with the details. Nigel.
Well, that's right. Grasim did well in today's trading session because Morgan Stanley came out with the note and they upgraded the stock. So they've shifted the stock to an overweight category and they've increased the target price to 3,500 rupees per share. They believe that the prospects are good for the stock in the near term itself. So they've given 4 broad reasons. Point number 1 is they say that the paints business is scaling up better than expected. And that's why now they're assigning a value of around 360 rupees per share. On an SOTP basis, earlier it was at around 150 rupees. They believe there is value unlocking that could be likely in the paints business. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is they're saying that Grasim is a play also on Ultratech Cement. And Ultratech's numbers are likely to compound from year on in terms of a profitability. So that's why Grasim is well placed. They also highlight that in fact the new businesses are scaling up well. So that gives an optionality in the time to come with regard to some kind of value unlocking. And point number 4 is they say that that holding company discount is likely to narrow, which places Grasim in a good place. So that's why Grasim is one of their top picks. Explains why the stock did very well in today's trading session.
Okay, all right, got that. Nigel, thank you very much for that. Well, with that, let's move on. Shares of Zee Entertainment were up about 2% in today's trading action after the company signed a strategic partnership with content startup Bullet to launch a micro-drama app. Vamakshi is joining in to tell us what this means and if it is really going to be material for the company. On such a quiet, boring kind of a day, Zee managed to create some drama, Vamakshi, with the 3% move.
Well, absolutely. Very dramatic moves coming in from Zee on a otherwise subdued trading session. They've entered into a strategic partnership with startup Bullet in order to launch a micro-drama app. They will be acquiring a stake. However, they've not gone ahead and disclosed the percentage stake that they will be acquiring along with the amount that they will be investing. The content will be made available in multiple languages to maximize accessibility across India. Now, largely, let's also understand what micro dramas actually are. They're China's latest cultural export. They're very short bite-sized video stories which are creator driven. Soap operas are broken down into 60 to 120 second episodes with cliffhanger endings, and this in turn creates an addictive effect on the viewer to go on swiping. Overall, it's a very huge market. In fact, there was a report which suggested that the global micro drama market rather could see a CAGR growth of almost 10.5% and could become as much as $12 billion by 2030. So overall, it's a huge opportunity that Zee Entertainment is tapping into, and resultantly, the stock was up in trade today.
Interesting, right? This entire micro drama. Mayuresh, you want to comment on the opportunity? It looks good for now, everything that Vamakshi was saying. And people get hooked on to shorter content, thriller kind of news pieces and content. But will Zee be able to make it good?
Question of time, Rima. That's absolutely what I can say. But yes, I think content is going to become king. In fact, I was going through a few listed companies, which is not directly into the digital media space, but more in terms of streaming. So if you probably look at stocks like a Saregama or a Tips Music, I think what they have put forth in their earnings call is that the kind of streaming addiction that has probably happened specifically with Gen Z, I think is pretty large. I think 3 to 4 hours an average time that is probably spent on a daily basis when it comes to music and streaming as well. And if I put that in context with a lot of the OTT players in terms of the content that they probably got, I think the viewership and the content absorption is going to be much larger. The expectation, obviously, I was going through a few of the global reports as well, that there might be some screens or tablets that might come through, which will be view only for all these content-related stuff as well. So there are interesting times ahead. But specifically for Zee, I think we will wait and watch because the core dynamics in terms of business happen.
Okay. All right, got that. So that's a take on Zee coming through. Jay, let me throw sort of an open question towards you. Anything else, any interesting trades you're spotting at this point in time? And also throw in a word on these railway stocks, both railway and defense, because there have been various stop and start kind of trading rallies in the last 2 weeks or so. So what would you advise here?
Yeah, an interesting space, probably the next emerging space is probably Nifty Pharma. So watch out for it. If Nifty Pharma were to take out 22,100, the sector is likely to get very active and possibly fresh 52 weeks highs. So it's also coincide with the fresh all-time high. When it comes to defense space, I would ask you to exercise caution, except of course Cochin Shipyard, Masgon and Garden Reach have done their move. From the new defense index that's starting to look slightly toppish, so exercise some caution, take profits or at least put tight stops. When it comes to railway stocks, probably some more higher highs to come through. I was bullish on it for the long term, and the reversal has come through a little earlier. So I would anticipate some pullback to come through, and then that will be probably a entry point for investors. But right now, it's a bit stretched in the very short term.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today on the show. As we slip into a break, let's get you snippets of a conversation that Shireen Pan had with Nestle India CEO Suresh Narayanan, where he said that the healthcare space is exploding. He sees opportunity in the ready-to-eat segment. That's not all. He adds that Gen Z consumer matters, and if brands fail to appeal to them, then they will shift. Here's a slice of that conversation.
We've talked a lot about what's been happening inside the company and how you've shaped the culture within the company. I want to focus on the customer. What has been the biggest lesson that the customer has taught you?
The customer has taught me the most important lesson: never to take him or her for granted. But at the same time, if your brand is strong and if your brand is loved, you will be given a second chance. One thing is for our brands to be constantly on purpose, constantly on point as far as the proposition is concerned. If the sands are shifting, for you to realize that the sands are shifting and to make the change happen, and to have less of an arrogance of continuity, of saying because this worked 20 years ago or because it's worked in one part of the world, it will work in another part of the world. I think more often than not, organizations suffer from an inertia and also a certain arrogance of continuity, saying it's worked, it will continue to work. Today's Gen Z consumers are irreverent. They couldn't care less for your brand if it doesn't offer them the value and the proposition that they seek. Who loses out in the bargain? It's the company that loses out.
Welcome back. You're watching Markets Forward, and let's take a quick look at some of the big corporate voices that we had through the course of the day. So Jana Small Finance Bank management says it's expecting to complete the transition to a universal bank within a few months of receiving the license. Remember, it had recently applied for a transition to a universal bank. The management went on to say they believe this license will enhance the velocity of deposit gathering and improve the pricing of deposits. For the microfinance segment, the management noted that it may be too early to say the worst is over. However, stress levels in the portfolio have noticeably eased.
Okay, and moving on, Klaus Rosenfeld, global CEO of Stapler, bets big on India. He says that India is one of the most promising markets for the next few years, and its unique natural advantage sets it apart from other nations. Thus, India is high on the company's list as a key destination for diversification. Finally, on our list today, Cholamandalam Investment. The company has outlined its FY26 guidance. The NBFC expects its AUM to grow in the range of 20 to 25%. Following RBI's rate cut, it expects its margins to improve by 10 to 15 basis points as well. Additionally, credit costs are projected to decline for the company this year.
And before we wrap the show, we'll bring you some of the key market events to watch out for tomorrow. Vamakshi standing by.
Well, Reema, first up, let's look at some of the economic cues to track in the trading session tomorrow. We'll be keeping an eye out on the US CPI data, crude oil inventories, as well as the federal budget. Apart from that, there's a board meeting scheduled for Hindustan Zinc. They will be considering interim dividend for FY26. And AGM is scheduled for City Union Bank, so keep an eye out on that as well. And Tata Elixir tomorrow will be going ex-dividend, so we'll be keeping an eye out on this counter as well. As far as some other events are concerned, Axiom 4 launch is scheduled tomorrow. Indian astronaut Subhanshu Shukla will be making his journey to the International Space Station. SEBI Chief Tuhin Kanta Pandey is also expected to address the media at 3:15 p.m. tomorrow, so we'll be closely watching out for his comments on the same. And lastly, keep an eye out on Kess Corp because the demerged entity, which is Blue Spring, is expected to list tomorrow.
Okay, all right, Vamakshi, thank you very much for that quick list and that reminder. With that, it's curtains on this edition of Markets Forward. Thank you for watching, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with more news and updates.
वाईट शॉट घेतो ना